Welcome everybody. It's Sunday night, and we're doing our second Sunday episode of House of the Dragon. Along to do the show with me is Roy and myself.
I will say, Mo, now we can hear some background noise that wasn't here when we were doing the pre-show. But yeah, happy to be here.
I am trying to limit that, but we'll see how that goes for now.
Well, I mean, we're just doing it live. We're doing it live.
Right, we are doing it live, so everything that's happening in my background is probably going to feed into this. But no,
well, this is an episode about family, Mo. So
it is an episode about family, as you can tell. I like that part of it.
Oh, that means you didn't like some parts of it. I'm excited to.
So not that I didn't like it. I was just like, who are these people?
Yeah.
It was a lot of readjusting. I didn't think it was going to be as jarring, and it was for me.
Interesting.
Especially like with Rhaenyra, like
interesting.
I didn't think it was going to be like, oh my god. Like, I thought it was going to be a 1-to-1, right? I wouldn't even think about it, but it wasn't that. I actually 100% thought about it. I was like, wait a minute, that's not. But as the episode went through, it was the initial like jarring effect of like meeting these new people, playing these old characters.
Mm-hmm.
How was that for you? What were your thoughts?
For me, I definitely think it was the least jarring with Alicent. I think that's partially because the two actresses look very similar. Although I think in many ways Alicent's character is got the biggest change, or I guess maybe her position in the show has the biggest change, where I think in this episode she's much more straightforwardly antagonistic. Like I think that the first half of the show kind of did in the book she's just like the worst. I'll be like, and she's closer to her book characterization here than she was the sort of more sympathetic character that was in the first half of the show. But I think they did it pretty well. There's still some sort of like cracks in the facade here, and she's a little bit more, maybe a bit more unhinged. And I felt that the actress who played Rhaenyra was a natural consequence of the decisions that the character made at the end of the last episode. So I didn't find it very jarring. I felt there's a decent amount of continuity between the performances, particularly where they sort of ended with the previous actress in the previous episode. So I didn't find that very like jarring.
But I think with Alicent there was that I felt like we were going to get this person. We were gonna like it was leading up, especially with what her father told her, the character they introduced to her in that episode, and everything she did. I didn't know it was gonna, but you're right. I didn't think it was gonna be like a super leap. I thought it was gonna be like a gradual thing. But in this episode, it's just like she's a villain, and I was like, okay, relax. Give me my sweet Alicent back.
She's gone, my friend. The years have taken her away from you.
Super gone. Super gone.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I think that for me, if we're talking about flaws in this episode, like Harris, right?
Strong.
Harwin strong.
Harwin strong.
Like the Rhaenyra's lover, which I can finally say that here. Like I was really surprised.
How long were you? How long?
I was like, I kept being like, they need to introduce him because he is very critical to the show. Like the characters that come on. I was just like, I think the show suffered, from being so tightly focused on Daemon in this episode because they didn't introduce the other supporting character. Like if you like, I had a connection to Harwin and Rhaenyra's relationship from the book, and he does a bit more in the book. But if I was just trying to imagine, like, what would be somebody who was only watching this on television? Like, I had no connection. Like, what would you think? So, Mo, what did you think of this brunette coming in and knocking Rhaenyra up and being the father of her children?
3 of her children.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was insane. And just to have, the reason I thought it was insane was just to have him come in for like 6 minutes. Like if you count on all his airtime, it was literally like 6 minutes. And then he's gone But for how
Gone.
long though? Oh, he's gone. Like he's not coming back.
He's dead. We're talking about
Wait a minute.
the father of dead. He burned to death at the end of the
Harlan
episode.
Strong? That was
Harlan
him?
Strong. Yeah, that was him. It was him and his dad are dead.
His brother?
His brother killed his dad, their dad, and his brother.
Oh, because his brother was the one trying to open the door for his dad. Just trying to break the door down.
So the father of Rhaenyra's kids was like trying to bust into his dad's room so he could escape the fire.
And so the thing fell. Oh wow. So that's crazy, right? For 6 minutes to bring him in for 6 minutes and have him going like forever is insane. But okay, so now, and I think the thing I thought with Chris and Cole is coming up here again last week, right? What he did in public viewing of everyone, and just to now be like Kingsguard, right? Like, isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, but I mean, he's just the ultimate nice guy at this point, right? Like to the point where,
oh my god,
he used a slur against Rhaenyra. Like, it's like, bro, you had sex with her too. Like,
right?
It's like it goes both ways.
Okay, so but no, like, okay, so but to talk about Harlan for a quick second, it's let me ask you, so is this what happens with Book Harlan?
Yes, but he is around longer, right, and does some things. Like, he's not like a vitally important character, but like he's present in Rhaenyra's story from basically from when Kristen Cole and her have their falling out, which is a little earlier in the book timeline, to when he dies, which is I guess like 12 years. So like, and he does things. He's like, he fights his attorneys. He was at her side and all that kind of stuff.
So because it's so while it's insinuated that he's strong, and then Kristen Cole's like, well, you've never seen actual battle, so you wouldn't know. Like, but he's a competent fighter.
He's supposed to be the strongest like knight in the Seven Kingdoms.
We don't get that though.
No, we don't get any of that. They just skip. They kept like putting him in the background of scenes. So for people like me who are like, oh, okay, he's gonna like interact with Rhaenyra, but literally besides rescuing her in the previous episode, he
did interact with her when she was out in the street for like a quick second.
Yeah. Again, a reminder, like this could be, it's like Chekhov's brunette,
Oh wow, that's crazy, because I for some reason I was like, why is this person so invested in banging the door down? I don't know why I was watching it absent-minded, but then now I'm like, oh snap, that was him.
That was definitely him.
So like,
they're both
why
dead.
Is this one person so pressed to beat the door down? And it was him. I'm definitely gonna watch this episode again, by the way. So just so you know. So that happened. He's gone, and I'm like, wow. And I think the scene where he was leaving was very touching.
It was.
So we were talking about something earlier today, because we did see each other earlier today, and one of the questions that was posed to us was, which show would have you, which would be the tearjerker by the end of it, right? I know for a fact it's gonna be House of Dragon, and I have a feeling that Rhaenyra is not gonna make it out of this show. You don't have to confirm it.
In general.
The show in general,
like all 4 seasons or however.
Whatever.
I'm not going to give you spoilers, but like,
you don't have to confirm it.
I mean, it's not like it's out of control guess.
It's not, because it's starting to just point to that. So now her baby daddy's dead.
Yeah.
I think her kids are gone. They're going to be smoked.
I'm not even going to comment in the least about that.
You don't have to, but it's just looking that way. It's just really, really, I think that's what they're pointing to. Nod if I'm right.
What they are pointing to, like, what's interesting
you just nodded, by the way.
I mean, but I was not nodding to your thing. I was trying specifically to change the subject because I don't want to give spoilers to you or to our listeners. Although you can, if this was an Alt Shift X video, I'd be like, you can go on Audible right now and purchase, Fire and Blood. Anyway, what was my point here? What was I getting at? Oh, I mean, there's one more. I will say there's one more time jump because there's still more characters to be introduced who are critical to the
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how they manage that. I think what's interesting here is the scene that I found the most well. There's the two most shocking things. They really leaned into the body horror elements of this episode, right? Both with Rhaenyra's birth and then Lena's non-birth, and then those men getting their tongues chopped off.
Right.
They really just, and then just in general, like Rhaenyra's like embodied, like they really embody her in this episode, which I think might have been like what I found compelling and why I was pretty quickly connecting to her. Like, was that whole sequence where she was forced to bring her kid before that, like sort of like power pantomime that the two.
Oh my gosh, she's such a villain. Like that was crazy to me when she's like, bring her, the queen's like, bring your baby to me, and then
Well, I don't think
it
Alicent
wasn't bring
expected
your baby
Rhaenyra to bring the baby herself.
Yeah, but it was Rhaenyra saying, you know what, you like whatever happens, you're gonna see. Like I think Rhaenyra was also pulling a power play.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
and I thought that was very interesting. You're right. It was what I did like was Jace. I'm just gonna call him Jace because that's what she calls him.
Jakara. Yeah, Jace, the oldest son.
The oldest Rhaenyra son.
Mm-hmm.
When he has his dragon, he even though he's like not like Targaryen, right? Or like, you know, he's not that, but he still was able to like talk to and control and give the dragon commands, and I like that because I feel like he's out there, gonna pack him up, he's out of here. But that was interesting. Where are you going?
Well, there's a whole nother, there's another time jump coming, just to warn people, I guess. So it's gonna be interesting. Like, I think Rhaenyra's children and Alice's children are pretty interesting characters, and we've met almost all of the major players. Well, we met all the major players now. There's still some important characters. So, like, what did you think of adult Aegon, who had the second most shocking scene in the episode where he was masturbating out of a window for no reason?
I was like, Homelander, what? Like, it was it was interesting because what? And I think one way, like, his mom was like trying, like, when his mom comes in and it's like, what are you doing? Like, do you think those other kids are doing this? Like, they're prepping to ascend, and you're here wasting like it was jarring. First of all, knock, mom. Like, I don't care. Like, knock. And
She's
like,
the queen, Mo. She's the queen.
You know what's funny? Because I'm in my mom's right now, and when she comes in, it's
Comes
one
in.
knock, enter. Like,
Yeah. I mean, look, she birds you. There's nothing, you know.
Yes, I was like, okay, well, that fell for me. I was like, well, hang on. This is not just you, but be careful. Like, lock the door.
Just, you know, look, it's brilliant to just do that out of a window, right? It's less cleanup. So, although, as my wife said, that depends on what direction the wind is blowing. But
it's definitely not his first time. And somebody was walking across there and had definitely plop on their forehead.
The princes.
Yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I thought the generational trauma aspect of that scene was really good because, of course, Alicent doing the same thing to Aegon that
her
dad did to her, because Aegon's also like, okay, like, I don't want to be king. Like,
I don't really care.
Like, Jacaerys can be king or Jace can be king. It's Jace.
I think it's Jacaerys.
It's not Jacaerys. Is it Jacaerys?
It's not.
It's not Jacaerys. It's like, yeah, it's Jace. Let's just go with Jace.
Yeah, I'm just sticking with Jace.
Anyway, he's like, Jace could be king. He's right. Like, I just want to, I don't know, fly my dragon and
then
sleep
it's like, do you think like when they ascend, like, it was pretty much the same thing her dad did to her, and I thought, and that was when I was like, oh yeah, she's definitely fully like embraced that thought process. You know, she's leaned into it.
Right, and I
What do you
think
think
they're
about the council meeting? I'm sorry,
go
sorry,
ahead,
let
go
me
ahead.
get
Well,
that.
I think the impression they're trying to if we add up the last 3 episodes of Alice's characterization, I
Hmm.
think she hates the freedom that Rhaenyra has claimed for herself, and that's kind of what drove the wedge. Like that combined with the Hightower political intrigue, like is what is driving her character is that she resents that her whole life is shaped by this choice their father made,
Yeah,
that she will be married to the king. And if she steps out of that role even the slightest bit, the whole political faction and endangers her children. But repeatedly, Rhaenyra, both when they were teenagers and now as grown women, gets to basically do what she wants with
yeah.
minimal consequences.
And
Um,
as we saw, I think also as we saw in the you know, with the council and with the king, like like even though he knows, right? He has an idea, he knows he's just not gonna. And I think that's leading to why she would lean towards the Hand's brother telling, like whatever she would lean towards his whisperings and his go ahead with, do it kind of thing. Like
mhm,
let's get rid of my, because the guy who was the Hand, the strong, right? He was ready to resign,
mhm.
and the king will let him, the honor and all of that. But you see, that's something that confused me. So if he was ready to resign, the king will let him. Like, why is her beef with Strong and not like her husband?
Well, because she can't take action against her husband, right? Like,
Man,
so even
he's
if you
old
think,
anyways.
well,
If
but
he
even if,
died,
but if he was to die right now, right,
right, Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra would 100% take over.
Hmm.
Like the Hand of the King is her not brother, not father-in-law, kind of
Right.
baby daddy father-in-law.
Yeah. So they would
His,
just have a stronger positioning.
yeah, like she's Rhaenyra's in a strong position, right? So she couldn't act. Let's say she right now, Alicent, I don't think has it in her to like just kill Viserys, but like
Hmm.
having like also same with like the Clubfoot wouldn't move to just kill Viserys because the Green faction is weak in King's Landing right now, right?
Right.
They have Kristen Cole, who is a good fighter but is a lunatic nice man who
Hmm.
just like can't control
Such
himself.
a nice guy. Like,
Yeah,
let's
such a nice
go.
guy.
Oh, I never get anything. Nice guys finish last. Get the fuck
Yeah,
out of here.
and but like they were at least evenly matched as and there's more dragons, right? Like she doesn't she the only adult dragon in King's Landing is Rhaenyra and
Hmm.
her brother and her husband.
Yes,
So she's not in a position at all to fight
because
Rhaenyra.
Viserys doesn't have one,
He died.
and
He so
yeah, because he had the black
yep,
dragon, right? And
Balerion, yep,
Aegon's
as a
dragon
baby dragon,
is
like a
still a
like a
baby dragon,
dragon.
right? Aemond or whatever, that was his name, right?
Aemond,
He
yep,
had yeah, he doesn't have one.
correct.
Um, okay, can I say he scares me because he barely speaks,
Hmm.
and I don't know, like those kids are scary. if
There's a
if
lot
TV
that's gonna
shows,
happen with them. That's all
you
I'm gonna
see,
say.
if TV shows and movies have told me is the quiet kids, you got to watch out for it,
Gotta watch out for the quiet kids.
right?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to say anything, but
And then
a lot of things is gonna
he's
happen with the kids, though.
the worst part is he's getting bullied by his own brother,
Hmm.
right? And I don't know, man. I don't know about the reach
Well,
in his backpack.
again, uh,
I
come
know you
talk
don't
at
want
the
to
end of the
spoil it.
season, Mo. We
I
can.
know, I know. Hopefully things happen that we can
Some
actually
big stuff's gonna
talk
happen
about.
next episode based on the trailer,
Okay, so yeah, based on the trailer. So
and big stuff happened this episode too.
no, I think interesting things happen. This is so with Game of Thrones, right? We always have that really high episode, and then they bring us down a little bit. This was, like, let's breathe a little bit. But even in the breather, we got like things happening with the Hand of the King dying, like
Hmm.
with Lena saying, "Fuck this, you're not gonna cut this baby out of me." I would I don't know why she. Okay, is it explained in the books why she did
So
what
in
she
the
did?
books, they do it. She In the books, she gives birth to a stillborn child, and but
Oh,
she doesn't recover, and so she dies trying to get to her dragon to have one life. It's like more. It's actually more tragic in some ways, like
wow.
in the book. Like she dies, like giving birth to a stillborn child, and she's dying of the trauma of that, and she's trying to make it to the tower to get to her dragon and die. But it happens at Driftmark in the book.
Right.
Because
It
Damon
explains.
doesn't go off into exile. Like they collapse a couple of different Damon storylines here, and so
Again,
he's in court in the book at this point, which looks like he's coming back in the show.
I felt like they spent a lot of time with a lot of capital with Damon in this episode.
Which they do. That's like
Didn't
their
care
thing.
for.
Well,
Didn't
they
care
do
for
pay
it.
Matt Smith a lot of money, so
Yeah. So I guess they're gonna have to show him. But I didn't care for anything that he did in this episode.
um
Is that where you are with this as well?
yeah, kind of. I mean I kind of thought where they were going with Damon, because he does become kind of a different character over time. I just wasn't expecting the specific, like their interpretation of his marriage with the younger, like Lena,
Lena?
is different than is in the book, where they're basically like successful. Their whole, like, their marriage is a success in the book, right? Until she dies tragically, right? So they'll kind of make it this like middle-aged melancholy, like our stuff is not aligned. Didn't like sit well with me based on what I know in the book. But I think it gets what they're trying to say is like Damon is trying to run away from, I guess theoretically Rhaenyra, who, and that's kind of what that scene on the roof where she's like, I know I'm not the person you imagined as your. I'm just like, I was like, oh god, they're really just like quadruple downing on this.
They're just they're
As
leaning super hard into it.
And so I get what they were trying to do, that he's like kind of running away, and now he's got even more responsibilities than he had. So I think he's saying he's going to have to pay off when he comes back to court, because I know where Damon is going as a character, and it's interesting to see like what path they're giving him to get there.
Okay. So we get to the end. Rhaenyra decides at this point she doesn't know if Strong is dead, right?
I don't think she does. It's unclear. She definitely does. I mean, she's going to learn at some point. But
is that what like sets her on the path to her dying? Because you don't have to tell me she is. I just know she is.
I mean, look, I will say this. Rhaenyra is a critical player in the Civil War that's going to happen. And the Civil War hasn't even started yet, Bo. So, like, gird yourself. There's a lot of stuff to happen. That'll be the end of what I'm going to say.
Okay. But, okay, great. So, she's leaving. Does this now confirm? Okay, so I'm going to ask you this. I don't know if you can spoil this, but does this confirm to everyone about, like, do the rumors die when she leaves, or do they become, like, bigger?
Well, I mean, like a
at this point, does it matter?
Thing about her kids, right? I mean, this isn't a spoiler now that they've done this, is whether or not they are the strong bastards or, like Rhaenyra's true-born children with Lenore. Like she never abandons the pretense, right? She can't ever abandon the pretense, right? But it remains an important plot point for those characters.
Okay. What happens to the dragons because they left without them?
Oh, I mean, they always just leave without the dragons. They're with them. Just always assume that the dragons are with them, because like Vagar is going to come back. Comes back. Like just because there's no dragon doesn't mean they're not present.
They just probably didn't have it in the budget. They already showed us 2. They're like, nah, we don't got it right now. Okay.
There were 3 dragons in this episode, because there was that whole like circus show thing with them, and then there was the dragon in the dragon pit.
Yeah.
So there were 3.
And then there was a baby dragon. 4.
The baby dragon plus the 2 adult dragons.
Oh, then which one was the one that scared
Oh, I
Amos?
guess there were 4 dragons.
Yeah,
4. I think that's Silax, the Rhaenyra's dragon. Is who that was.
winners. Okay. All right then. Am I missing? Are we missing anything?
I don't think so. Well, hold on. All right. So major storylines are Allison.
Renner.
Allison, Rhaenyra, Viserys, Death of the Hand of the King, kids. No, I don't
Lena.
think Lena, she dies. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I don't think we really missed anything.
All right. So, um, based on the trailer for next week, where do you think they're going? Or what do you think they're setting up?
It looks like they're setting up something happening between their two families, and then there's some kind of direct confrontation between Alicent and Rhaenyra, right? Like they're like
Mhm.
yelling at each other, and then like the last shot of the trailer was like Rhaenyra's like arm bleeding. So
Mm,
who knows?
who
Like,
knows?
I mean, I know what the big
You
event is,
know. You
but
know.
I don't know some of the other stuff
If
around it.
that's
Like,
what. Right. Right. Right.
one of the most important events in the entire pre-story happens in the next episode.
And if you had to grade this episode,
B minus.
wow, that's low. What was your last one? Last
I
week
think
was A
A
minus.
minus. I think B plus. A minus.
Wow. So you okay?
I thought this was a good episode. I like the actresses. I think that the show is suffering from the decision to backseat a bunch of like their obsession with Damon. Like Damon has more screen time than he deserves, I think. Like
Because
in
of the actor and because you have to pay him the money.
yeah, no, I agree.
You have
But
to
casting,
justify.
yeah. And it makes sense to cast Matt Smith as like to get someone as big as Damon, like actor
Hmm.
play Damon makes sense to me. But the problem you suffer the consequences of when Damon is not important to the storyline, he still has to be there.
Right.
And that
Right.
means that other smaller characters that you want to have an emotional connection to, like I would have appreciated more like Harwin Rhaenyra stuff, like when they were younger, right?
Right.
Because that would have made it more sense than just like he rescues her, smash cut 10 years later, they have 3 kids, he then dies at the end of the episode that's revealed. Like, come on. Like that's a very important relationship for Rhaenyra, right?
Correct.
And if we're trying to follow her, right?
Mhm.
It's just yeah, so I don't know. That's what lowers
All
the
right.
rating for me is I think the time skip didn't help them in some ways in this.
I'll give it a B. And again, I think for me it was just the jarring like switch of like actors. I just have to get used to it. But I'm not that they were bad. It was just like, whoa, who are these people? And that's just it. But it was pretty good. So I liked it. I liked it. I'm with you. Can't wait to see what they do next week. Uh, this is our second Sunday reviewing Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for making the time because I
Always.
really appreciate it.
Thank you for making the
Uh,
time. Your life is even more chaotic than mine right now. I just need to get to bed.
right. But thank you. We will catch you next week. Monday,
It will
maybe.
be Monday next week, right? Because
Right,
when
right.
is
Yeah,
Indigenous
we're going.
Peoples Day? It's the following weekend, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
the 12th. Well, no, wait, that's September. Yeah, it'll be the Monday, the
All
3rd.
right. So definitely, we're going back to the Monday schedule. So thank you again for watching. Then twice in one day, boy. This is amazing.
We are expert YouTubers, Well,
Really, at this point. But no, thank you so much for making the time. We will see you next week, Monday, for our Game of Thrones House of the Dragon review. Don't forget to like. How do we do this one?
Dracarys.
Yes,
The
Dracarys, the like, share, and subscribe button. See you next week.